Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, the podcast about other podcasts. Where each week we dive deep into a podcast and tell you about all the things that made us think, all the things that made us feel, get off on tangents along the way. I'm Josh.
I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach.
He did it. Oh my gosh.
He got it in one take and he never did, even when he was every week doing it.
First time ever. Oh man. Perfect. Dude, I'm so excited. Okay, people are going to be like, wait, did I accidentally load up an old episode of the PDS?
You did not.
You did not. This is my birthday present. I'm so excited. Yeah. I'm going to cry.
No, and it was funny because at some point this week you're like, we should get Josh to come on the show. He can like just record from home. It'd be really easy. I was like, it's already happening, but I can't tell you. It's a surprise.
He asked us, we did a social distancing video cast together on Sunday. And he's like, Josh, when are you going to come back on the podcast? So I was like, I don't know, man. He's like, you've got free time. I was like, well, I'm kind of busy.
So you already knew then?
Yeah, he knew then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had like a virtual hangout the other day, and that was fun.
It has been fun. I've been doing that a lot more. I will say that's one of the plus sides of all this is I've reached out to people through video chats and things like that.
But the funny thing about that night in particular was for some reason my microphone had me like 4 octaves lower than I normally talk.
Yes, it did.
And it kept messing with Zach's head, and it was great. It was funny. They just made me say things.
I'm gonna see if I can. My roommate has a video of that.
It sounded more like I was on Cops, and they just changed my voice to sound like,
"Yep,
I did not have relations with that woman."
Why is Bill Clinton on Cops? It's the weirdest choice of a quote. But yeah.
Oh man.
We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about podcasts.
Sorry, I got a little excited.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, so this week we are going to be talking about Code Story. And the way that I found Code Story is we were on Podcorn, which we've used as a way to find advertisers before, and they were looking for some advertisement. We got them to sponsor the show, which was a great partnership. They sponsored the show, but I don't want to just talk about any podcasts and just read their thing. I want to actually listen to the show and be like, okay, well, I can have a educated guess of what the show's about. Well, I listened to their show and I'm like, this is a really good show. Like, I'm not recommending them because they asked or they're sponsoring us, but because of the sponsorship, I found them. So that's how I discovered them. But it's a really good show. And Noah is an amazing host. I will say it does get technical. Sure. It probably made more sense to Josh and Zach than it did to me. There was a lot of language that I didn't even understand. And actually, me and Zach had to look a few words up as we listened to it here at work. Second time I listened to it. But it's the specific episode that we're going to talk about is where Noah interviews Chris Slowe from Reddit. He's the CTO of Reddit. And this is episode 19. And so what did you guys think about the show?
First, before we get to that, what were some of the words that you guys looked up?
We looked up tech debt. It was definitely something he threw around a lot. That it makes perfect sense once you for anybody else, before you listen to the show, he says tech debt a lot. And what that means is a lot of times when companies are developing, they're not thinking about future expansion and what it's going to be like to roll out additional features or scale it up or anything like that. So they kind of paint themselves into a corner with how they develop in the beginning, and then at some point you have to pay the tech debt, I'm sure is what the kind of the premise is behind it.
Exactly. And it's a lot of times with startups where they build, when they say MVP, minimum viable product, they'll build something that functions and they'll get it out quickly, but it won't be built sturdy or for scale. So imagine if you're trying to build a house and you're like, oh, I'm just building like basically a shed for my backyard. And you just put 4 posts up and a nice thin roof on it. Like, all right, I want to build a second floor on it. The roof is too thin. So you have to go back and rebuild the roof before you can expand and grow it. So basically that same concept in technology space where it's just too flimsy to maintain what you want to expand it to in the future from a technical perspective. And they have to go back and invest a lot of time and money to fix things. And so that's the debt.
Yeah. So that was one of the things. And you explained it much better than we even looked it up. Now I understand it even better. I really do.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because I'm a little dumber than even what Google expected.
It's a good thing to know a couple, like he also said minimum viable product. And that's also basically what can you do so people can use it.
I was too embarrassed to even say I didn't know what that was.
But it's just what can you put out so that people can use it and have a user experience on your site. Not that it's optimized, because if you wait until it's perfect, it's not going to go out.
So I did listen to a few episodes of this show, and some of them got more into the crunchy stuff, the very, technical aspect of the way that they built their product. And some of them were more in the middle. This one was very much in the middle. It had a little bit of technical stuff, but they talked a lot about the product itself, which is Reddit. So let me ask you guys, let us find a way to give a good definition of what Reddit is for those that actually don't know what Reddit is. It's a little bit difficult.
It is tough to and that's why he asked him to describe it, because I'm sure he has to elevator pitch where Reddit is all the time. I would Reddit's tagline is the front page of the internet, because it's not curated content by some person at Reddit. It's curated by Redditors. So people that are on Reddit are upvoting things. If anybody's familiar with Dig was like the original, before Reddit, there was Dig, where people can put whatever kind of content they want, and if whoever is in that group likes it, they push it to the top.
Yeah.
And so it's like a popular stream of consciousness of the entire internet, every possible hobby, every possible random subgenre of interest, kind of ever. I feel like across and I mean, it's a little bit of a generalization, but it's kind of not. If there's something you're interested in, if you have a hobby, if you have a passion of any kind, there's probably a subreddit for it that is just filled with other people.
Definitely not a generalization. There is. And things you can't even imagine.
There's things that shouldn't be a subreddit too.
Yeah, I mean, It is the blessing and the curse of Reddit, to be honest. I mean, it is. It's very community led. I mean, and they talk about it as like a news aggregator, but there's so much more than news. There's so much more to it than just that. It's good for that, because usually there's so many moderators in a lot of these different groups that things that it's probably fact checked much better than a lot of other places, because as soon as someone sees BS, they're trying to take it down, depending on the subreddit and depending on the moderators. But
yeah, there's a lot of variables.
That's one of the really interesting things about Reddit is there's the Reddit front page. They give you like 20 subreddits as your kind of list that you're subscribed to when you first sign up. And that's what a lot of people's overall experience with Reddit is. Hey, I've got these 20 subreddits, and I scroll through and see funny cat pictures and funny videos and jokes, and there's a bunch of stuff on there. And so that's what a lot of people's overall experience with Reddit is just the front page. But the subreddits you can subscribe to, there's a lot of stuff that there's like 15 people in a subreddit, and they curate stuff and they police it and they make sure that the information is factually correct. Like the science subreddit is extremely aggressive about deleting comments that are speculative or anecdotal. So like they are aggressive about that. But then there's other subreddits like the politics subreddit and everything else. They're not fact checking any of that. They just make sure their civil discourse is kind of, hey, keep the discussion civil is what they post in there. But there's no fact checking. No. It's all the people are saying, oh, this is wrong, or oh, this is right. And people try and fact check themselves, and there's links, and it leaves it up to you to go and see if you agree or disagree with what people are saying. But it's really interesting because it is so diverse, but it's also it's one of the concerns I've had with Reddit recently is that it's so diverse like that, where if you're in some subreddits where they're policing things and making sure things are accurate, you're a little bit more safe to believe what they're putting in there, and it's not some sort of falsified information or trying to make money off of you or a scam or whatever it is. But there's other ones that don't do any policing at all. Like literally, it's just like if someone posts something on there and people upvote it, it gets upvoted. And that could be anything from information, like they've had to create laws now on Reddit. I guess rules, they're not laws, but they've put in rules where they can't dox people, you can't witch hunt, you can't do X, Y, and Z. There's a bunch of different things. So they've had to go through and they've gotten rid of racist subreddits and things that people have started. Anything that's racist or hateful, anything that is promoting violence. So there's a lot of things that they've had to go in and start policing as a site, which I thought was really interesting. And I think it's something that a lot of the big social media sites like Facebook and Twitter and everything else are having to contend with now. And it was kind of one of the big things I was thinking of is if you have a platform like Reddit, what is your social responsibility to police some of that stuff? And by what metric do you police that? Your own moral barometer? Do you choose what the government's saying? How do you structure that stuff? Because that's probably the harder thing to do for Reddit than the technical side.
Yeah, because I mean, you're talking about like an ethical dilemma at that point. You're talking about where is the line on what's allowed to be said.
And it's kind of on both ends because, like,
it's definitely
that
all
is
over.
Definitely the beauty of it because there is freedom and things like that. But there's also got to be some sort of boundary somewhere. And where is that boundary? Where have you drawn it too far one way or the other?
And it's not something that I think is quantifiable. It's not something there is.
The thing is, and like they mentioned, no matter where you pick, someone's going to get pissed off.
As soon as you have a popular website, get ready for people to be pissed off all the time. That's just how it goes. You know, that's the price you pay for having notoriety or having a lot of opinions about what you're doing. You get a lot of negative opinions too.
Yeah. I did love that about later on, Chris mentioned that is that like subreddit exists to criticize Reddit exists to criticize Reddit.
Oh, and they do. Yeah. They do. It's not like Reddit is not above reproach even on Reddit. That's not at all how it is. It's on like it is honestly. People feel very free in saying what they don't like.
Yeah, I love how and he said it kind of really magnified or kind of shed light on that snarkiness that the first comment when they introduced comments was a snarky comment of, oh, now there's comments, rip, it's done, it's over, bye. It's like that was the first thing anybody said was, oh, they ruined the website.
Yep, and one of my big PSAs on Reddit is every single comment that you read, just assume that the person has no idea what they're talking about and they're completely full of it. I went on one talking about looking at like how to do search strategy and recruiting, and every single comment, there was like the top like 25 or 30 comments were absolute garbage, absolutely wrong. And that was when I was like, oh my gosh, the thing that like I'm an expert on and I'm reading about to see what other people are saying, everyone's dead wrong. Everyone's real bad. And so to think, what are the other things that I've said? Oh, I know nothing about this. Let me go read about it. And it's a bunch of idiots saying stuff that they have no idea what they're talking about. So
you're talking about the comments.
I take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah, it is typically the comments. Sometimes,
because they're probably much less moderated than the posts themselves.
They're basically only moderated for exactly what he was talking about earlier, like racism, sexism, homophobia, things like that. Kind of those major things. It's just like they just don't want it on the website anymore. Violence, things like that. And that's kind of it. I mean, there's some subreddits that are more extreme. Honestly, you kind of see a lot more moderation on political subreddits because people get so triggered that they just lose their mind. There's certain subreddits that if you're not of that political leaning, you can't post there. Just in general, those they just won't let you. And so there's some and we kind of get into. Josh also sent over. It was one of the things I was thinking about. Is kind of the hive mind or the echo chamber, because yes, you can find a subreddit that's so specific to you and your interests. Zach.
Kirk.
So yeah, it's the catch-22 of Reddit. You can find a place where there's up to there's some subreddits that have millions of subscribers.
That's ridiculous.
And you can find millions of people who want to see the same type of content as you, but you kind of have to fight against you're all thinking the same way and having the same issues with things and talking the same way. It's kind of just part of it. And I mean, like with anything on the internet, you need to be skeptical because people will put false information just out like it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, like, if you're in a like-minded group and that's all you're talking to about, you're not ever being challenged with your opinion or anything like that. And so it's a good thing and a bad thing in the same way as a lot of things. It's a little bit scary in some ways. You got to have some sort of challenge in life before you think that you're right about everything and everyone else is wrong. It's the echo chamber effect. I think that, I don't know if that's what it's called, but essentially that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is, you always have people agreeing with you. If you're a CEO that always has only yes men around you, if you have one person that says no, you think that they're wrong immediately without ever taking their opinion even into account. It's the same concept. You're just surrounding yourself by yes men.
Yeah. Yeah. And Reddit's an interesting place because you get into Reddit as a whole and you start to see all these issues. But if you go into some of these subreddits, it's 50, 150, 200 people that are passionate about some certain hobby maybe, or some book series or whatever it is. And it's just a bunch of people just chatting about whatever it is. And it's completely just, hey, here's people that have the same interest. Whatever subreddit interest is X, you have that same interest and you can talk to people at length about whatever nuances of whatever the thing is that you want to. Like I'm part of a...
yeah, and that's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm part of like the yo-yo community subreddit, which is amazing. It's called Throwers. Yeah. That one's amazing. I'm part of a couple of role-playing game, like D&D type subreddits, which are super interesting. They give like a lot of tips on like how to DM things. There's a lot of stuff about like free systems that are out there and content and stuff you can pick up for free. So that stuff's really cool. If you're into certain hobbies, you can find some subreddits. They're going to give you curated news and things that everyone else in the community is looking at and throwing in there. That stuff I love. But when you start relying on Reddit for your politics and for all of your news and for what's going on in the world, and you don't have any other outside information coming in, that's when you start getting the echo chamber, which I think could be a problem. I don't think it's really a major problem yet, but I don't think it's as open as it could be or should be. But that's
it can't be worse than Facebook.
No, it's the same thing with Facebook. Well, it depends on who your friends are on Facebook is the thing, where Reddit is a community and they've already shown that there's people that are karma farming and raising their posts to the top and things like that. So there is some manipulation. Same thing on Facebook, but it's probably close to the same if I had to guess.
Because I just don't know. What does the karma mean?
Nothing.
Does it mean anything?
It doesn't mean that's
just like a rep. It's like your rep.
Yes, and that's why I never understood why you would put so much effort towards getting it, because it literally it's whose line is it anyway? Money. The points mean nothing. It doesn't do. You can't convert it to money. You can't. I guess maybe somebody would buy a Reddit account with a bunch of karma, but why?
Because then it shows you're a proven Redditor and a community contributor. So when you go,
like a marketing
when you go sell something on there, it doesn't look like, if you're trying to be like, oh, I just got this awesome thing, it doesn't look like a sales pitch. But if your Reddit name is I am MarsCandyBars.com and you're like, I just bought this new Mars candy bar and it's so good. You know what I mean? Like that's obviously a sales pitch.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I guess there's a marketing angle on it. But
I was curious about that.
They're worth nothing, means nothing.
But
I thought it was really interesting when Chris was talking about, because Noah asked him, what is a mistake that you've made, throughout your years of being the CTO of Reddit, and he talked a little bit about how he made a lot of mistakes early on when they were writing the code, and basically they're still finding them today. And I loved that he was saying.
Sounds right. Is it in the search? Is it in the search bar? Because I think there's bugs there. Have you heard that meme?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so the way to search for things on Reddit is by Googling it. Like the search function on Reddit is
abysmal,
not efficient. You just search whatever you want to search and then type Reddit at the end, and that's what you do on Google.
There's actually
a way. Yeah, he talked about how he made like a rule for. If you find my code anywhere in this build, redo it immediately.
Yeah, no, and I thought that was hilarious as well, because it shows he has no ego about the thing. He's like, hey, I built this to be quick, dirty, and efficient and get it out the door. Anything that I ever wrote, I haven't written code in X amount of years, So anything that I wrote is probably bad, needs to be rewritten at this point. So I thought that was a really interesting anecdote, and especially how he got tagged in a code change one morning, and he came in, he's like, "Why am I tagged in this?" He's like, "Oh, I wrote this." He's like, "I don't remember ever writing any JavaScript."
Like, just fix this garbage, dang it! Just fix it. This is horrible. Oh, I wrote this.
Oh, okay. I did this to you. I understand now.
They're like, "So do you want us to take this out?" Yes, please take it out. So I want to ask you guys, what is your favorite subreddit?
Favorite subreddit?
Don't take mine. You know what mine is. All right, well, I'll just tell you mine then. Mine is definitely the Today I Learned subreddit. I love that subreddit. I do like the science subreddit a lot, too.
Yeah, no, science,
those
history.
are my favorite ones.
Today I Learned is a great one.
It is
Listen to This is a great subreddit because it's all very low, like, listen count music for the most part. It's a good one. Okay, there's, for some reason, and one of my main beefs with Reddit is that everybody thought that porn was a name they should put at the end of something to mean it's good. So they do like nature porn. And it's like an amazing nature picture. And it's like, why does it say porn? So there is a subreddit aggregator called No Silly Suffix that is every single subreddit that has like machinery porn, earth porn, nature porn, food everything. Porn. They take the porn off of it and they put it into one feed. And it's called No Silly Suffix. So it doesn't say porn all over your computer when you're trying to look at it. That's a good one.
Yeah. I like that. What about you, Josh?
I'm looking through my subreddits that I'm subscribed to right now.
Oh, I should do that too.
I mean, I don't know if I have a certain favorite one. It just depends on... It's just a crazy...
Okay, I'll throw out one. Frugal Male Fashion. That's a great one.
Yep.
Really cheap deals on clothes.
Throwers, the yo-yo subreddit's good. The tattoos subreddit is good.
Artisan videos.
Most cities will have a subreddit, so I'm subscribed to the Tampa subreddit.
Same.
It's mostly bad, but every once in a while there's something good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly useless. It's mostly like, hey, I'm coming to Tampa for vacation.
What should I do?
How's the coronavirus? No, they don't say that.
It's not far off, though.
I mean, they might.
They probably are now.
The Lego subreddit is awesome. There's always people posting like things that they've created and different Lego stuff on there. So that one's usually pretty good.
I want to talk to you guys at length about the Lego Masters show because it's so good, but we'll talk about that later.
The home improvement subreddit, since I bought a house, I subscribe to that one, which is interesting and terrifying at the same time.
No, I can't let my wife know that I can fix anything whatsoever. She still is under the impression that I can't fix anything ever. So I'm going to keep her
on purpose.
I'm choice. I'm keeping her under that impression.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can fix a lot of things, but she thinks I can fix nothing. So.
There's here's a niche one that I really enjoy most of the stuff on. There's a cyberpunk subreddit. And it's a lot of like artwork and stuff people drew and different things like that, but also it'll be like some kid's prosthetic arm that has like a neural interface on it, and like other things that are like real life but are like, hey, we're moving towards like a cyberpunk future. So there's some really cool stuff there. And then I'm also on the beards subreddit, so lots of dudes with glorious beards.
Why are you on the beards subreddit, Josh? Do you have a beard?
So yeah, it's just a lot of.
Okay, do you want to know some?
It's a lot of dudes with beards, and right now they're
Mimi.
Right now they're posting pictures of themselves clean shaven because they had to shave them for their masks to form an airtight seal for COVID-19.
Yep. It's crazy that we're dealing with like World War II problems. Like, that's why Hitler had that mustache, right?
No.
Yeah, Hitler had that mustache because you couldn't have a gas mask on.
What?
Because he was
I never knew that.
He was a soldier in World War I.
I did know he was a soldier, but I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
that's
when
why he had the weird mustache.
That is
when COVID-19 started to spread pretty rapidly, CDC released a guideline on what facial hair was approved for the masks, and the Hitler mustache was one of them. They called it like the toothbrush or something like that. But like, who's wearing that?
Yeah, it's much better than the Hitler mustache.
Why would you? Why no one's wearing that mustache ever again? It's just not a thing. Charlie Chaplin and Hitler.
He ruined it.
Honestly,
he ruined names.
If there was a time for it to come back, it's right now. people have to wear masks all the time. I'm not saying it should. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying
if it was ever going to,
that if
now
there was
would be
a
the
set
time.
of circumstances,
This is the only time it would ever make sense for it to come back.
Right. If there was a set of circumstances that it could, not that it should, but that it could come back because it makes sense for the world we live in, it's right now.
I will say it is. I mean, we're completely off topic, but it is kind of weird how like he was such a bad dude that he ruined literally everything around.
Yeah, everything that he was associated with is like, I don't like
Swastika.
I would
that.
love to see how many people were named Adolf before he was born and how many people were named Adolf after he died.
Yeah.
Probably not many.
Yeah.
Probably
like
not many.
swastikas are another one. I think it was like an Indian or Hindu
It was a symbol for peace.
It was like
I didn't know that either. I'm learning so many things about
Hitler.
This is
apparently Nazis.
This isn't even why. Okay. Oh God. Yeah, I mean that's how it goes. It's what can you do?
So the reason that I ask you guys what your favorite Reddit subreddit is because I looked up some of the weirdest and craziest subreddits that are out there.
Can I give you some of my favorites that are like meme type subreddits?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, there's one called YouTube Haiku. The video has to be under 20 seconds.
Okay.
Sometimes really good. There's one called Perfectly Cut Screams. I don't know why I like it so much, but I do, because the whole thing is like you cut mid-scream, and it's usually like, I don't know, it's wild. There was one with Conan O'Brien the other day that was awesome.
I don't even know what that means.
I'll show you later.
It's like a video where someone's like walking downstairs trying to do a funny trick, and then they like trip on the last step, and they're about to face plant, and they're screaming, and it cuts right at the end.
And they hard cut. No, but okay, if you want to see this, look up Conan O'Brien makes hand sanitizer.
Conan O'Brien's awesome.
He's hilarious. It's one of the best ones I've ever seen.
He's very funny. So, let me just list some of these off. I will give a little bit more detail on some of them, but most of them, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Sure.
There's a subreddit for people who want to remix the Thomas the Train engine theme song with hip-hop. So they take the theme song beat of Thomas the Train and they make it into a rap.
Okay. And this is the thing that always gets me. It's the Mandela effect or the Mandela effect. Which one?
Yes.
Like Nelson Mandela?
Mandela.
Or Mandela.
It's Mandela. It's
okay.
Nelson Mandela.
So the Mandela effect. Thomas the Tank Engine, Thomas the Train. I feel like I've heard...
That one's changed
both.
over time. It was Thomas the Tank Engine when we
okay.
were kids, but they changed it to Thomas the Train because it makes more sense, I guess.
It makes me feel better because I was like, am I losing it? Like
Bernstein.
That one, okay, that one got me.
No, I think that's the only one that I'm like, I don't know about that.
Okay, I didn't mean to.
Anyway,
I didn't mean to derail you, but
so Josh, it's funny because I didn't know you were going to be on here tonight, but I have this one as specifically because I didn't know what your reference was many times when you talked about the Slav squat. But there is a subreddit that's all about Slavs squatting. So Eastern Europeans just squatting. Yeah. And there's literally thousands of people in this subreddit, and it's just pictures of Eastern European people squatting down.
It's so good.
There's plenty of opportunity to see this.
There is a subreddit for people who want to see sexy pictures of toasters.
Wait, okay. So as in a well-taken photograph of a toaster, or like it has sex involved in it?
No. It has to be a well-taken picture of a toaster that makes it look sexy.
Okay. No, that's worth clarifying.
Think about it. The toasters are fairly curvaceous, and a lot of them have mirrored surfaces. So that's what a lot of the pictures
you can 2 for
apparently.
1. Yeah.
So there's another that reminds me of another subreddit that I know exists, and I don't know the name of it. But it's basically product photos people have taken for like eBay or Craigslist, and they can't get themselves out of the reflection.
Okay, that one's good. I want to find out.
I don't remember the
John
name
Mulaney?
of it. I can probably find it if I do some Google foo on it. But if anyone out there listening knows what that is, tweet at the show.
No, John Mulaney or somebody kept doing that. They kept like tweeting out pictures where there was male parts in the reflection of everything, and he kept getting banned from it. He's like, "What? What's wrong?"
That's disturbing. Yes. So here's another one. It's kind of in the same vein. People, apparently, there's a subreddit, and a lot of people are in it, of people who like to see pictures of dragons banging cars.
Yep. It's gross. I've stumbled across that one. I was like, wait, is this a thing? And I click on it. I was like, it's exactly as described.
Warning, a lot of these pictures are not safe for work.
It's weird. Exactly as described. Odd. If you're wondering what's in there, what you think is in there is what's in there.
I mean, it does say, it is r/dragons effing cars. And so, it's the real word.
So yeah, don't be surprised.
It's the grown-up word, as I say to my kids.
It's exactly what you think.
I love this one. This is a wholesome one, but it's just so niche. It is a subreddit for people who love airport carpets.
I don't understand that, but okay.
And here's my favorite one, and I've actually seen some of the pictures, and it is great. And it's the fact that it exists makes me happy and scared at the same time. It is a subreddit. I think it's called Birds with Arms or something like that.
Yes, Birds with Arms.
And it is just a subreddit of people who have taken pictures of birds and then photoshopped arms onto birds. And somehow it is amazing.
That's literally it. That's all there is to it, is you put arms on birds.
And there's like over 100,000 people in this group, guys.
No, there's another one called Birds Aren't Real, where they pretend that birds are like robots or drones and just they're not.
Apparently there's a lot of things about birds, because there was another one about like the birds are apparently against humans, and there's like a war of birds against humans, which gives a lot more context to. Do you remember when we went and watched Mabim Bam in Nashville, and they talked about birds and humans being able to coexist? It's funny because I didn't know that was a thing until today. Actually,
could be that.
Josh looks like he doesn't remember that.
I don't.
Yeah, there was definitely a long bit about I think that was the name of the episode as well.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was about the birds being able to live alongside the humans.
No, but in general, we all, as you can tell, use Reddit. And so it was really interesting to hear the CTO and somebody who sounds like he came on very early on talk about the pitfalls, the process, the things that have changed, and the future of the platform, and really kind of dig into some of the technical aspects as well. The interview flies by. It's very interesting. Yes, there's some technical aspects. And if you're looking for that, if you're a developer or somebody that's interested in kind of the architecture of how people are building a site like Reddit, because the scale of it is crazy at this point, you have a lot there. But also if you're just interested in general about.
So Noah does an amazing job with interviewing people. And what I thought was very, I guess, impressive to me was the people that he has on the show. Like, he has a lot of people that are very influential in the tech world that, for a podcast, I was very impressed by. Mm-hmm. The other one that I listened to was about Squadcast, which apparently was I didn't even realize it till later, was the app that we used when we had Keith on like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you have used it.
I've used it. I didn't even know I used it. And but Code Story it's an amazing podcast, and they did sponsor this episode as well. It is such a good show. They interview tech visionaries. I mean, you guys know that. We talked about that at length today. The way that they worded it, and it is true. It's like how I built this with Guy Raz, but about specifically tech companies.
Yeah, and I will say that we really try to not do anything because people want us to. And so the fact that they had sponsored last episode, we were like, oh, we can't talk about this show.
The fact that we keep talking about it makes it seem like we did. But it's true. I mean, people have reached out to us on Twitter and stuff like that, like, hey, review my show. And I will listen to their show. And if it's worth reviewing or talking about or discussing, we'll bring it up. But most of the time it is not.
No, mainly I say that to say this, is that the entire reason we're talking about the show is because we actually liked it. Yeah. And we were able to overcome are wanting to look like we were just paid out for this because we like their show. We want people to check it out.
Yeah, and I'm no longer affiliated with the Podcast Discovery Show, and I like the show. I thought they did a great job of using the technical discussion to talk about how it impacted the business, how it impacted the product, and how it impacted the user. So it wasn't just technology for the sake of technology, but like, how does this evolve the product? How do we get the end result that we got based on how the technology evolved along the way? So
yeah, and as soon as I listen to this, I mean, it may be a little embarrassing, but the whole time I listened to this episode, any episode of this show, I thought about Josh the whole time.
No,
so I'm so excited that Josh was on this.
You mentioned that
now.
several times. Like, okay, I know the perfect birthday present. and Josh is also trapped at home because he just got back from Iceland, so he's on quarantine.
Yeah, even if the state of Florida wasn't on quarantine, I'd be on mandatory 14-day quarantine no matter anything else. So I've been destined for this.
This is maybe the only. Never mind. I don't want to say. I was going to say I wish that we were on quarantine in some ways because we're kind of exempt, so we don't get the.
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
I would like to be at home. I got a lot of stuff I could get done.
You say
a lot of video games I'd love to play.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. My kids are home and they drive me crazy.
There's one noise that his son makes that literally. That noise is all it takes for him to be very upset.
His banshee scream?
Yes, he does squeal like it's something special. It is ear piercing, but it affects him deeply.
All right, guys. Well, that brings us to this week's recommendation, and I have another one for you guys. Next week's recommendation is, I guess it's this week's for next week, is the Tenish Podcast. It reminds me a lot of My Thing Can Be Your Thing. It's a lot of fun. It's very lighthearted.
I miss those guys.
Yes, they were so good. They're so funny. And these guys are very funny as well. They pick a list of a top 10 list, essentially, of things. And one of the hosts knows what the list is. The other one doesn't. Like the order of the list. So he'll tell him, okay, so it's this. And he has to guess which ones they are. And you actually end up learning stuff, which is crazy sometimes. Like this one that I want to recommend is about the strongest animals. And so that's the top 10 list. And it's 10-ish because sometimes it's like 8. Sometimes it's like 12.
It's mostly 10?
It's 10-ish.
Sure, yeah.
But it's a great show. It's fun. And I think it's time for a really goofy, fun podcast. So
that sounds good.
So listen to the Tenish Podcast, the Strongest Animals episode, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Hey, Josh, get in on this. You got
And remember,
finish it out.
There's always more to discover.
Thank you for listening to the Podcast Discovery Show. We have a few things we'd like to tell you. First, we would love to hear from you on Twitter at the PDS Official or in our Facebook group, the Podcast Discovery Club.
Secondly, leaving a rating or review on iTunes helps tremendously in giving us visibility and also visibility to the podcast that we recommend. You can also check out our Patreon page to get exclusive bloopers, old episode archives, and other exclusive content while supporting the show.
Finally, seriously, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you about what you love about podcasts. And thank you for being a part of all of the things that we do.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.